Well, welcome to another session of One in the Spirit, and today I have a very special guest, Mr. Paul Sales, and we're going to be talking about a very extraordinary project which is being taken on by General Council of the United Church of Canada in collaboration with Hope Publishing and OneLicense.net. And Paul is a member of this committee that's putting it together, and so welcome, Paul. We really appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, glad you asked me to come in.
So let's talk a little bit about the origin of Then Let Us Sing. It's probably got quite an interesting background to it.
Yeah, the origins of it came from 2016 when the General Council Executive of the United Church asked that we prepare a resource for music and worship in the church that would be inclusive and be to help the church move ahead into the 21st century, into its second century, by using all the current and new resources, both digitally and all that sort of thing, to help congregations develop their worship in the coming years.
Mm-hmm. So what brings you to this? What are the gifts and talents you're bringing to this particular project?
Well, I think that I've been a church musician since I was 8 years old when I first sang in a church choir, and then I think I played my first church service when I was 13. So I've always been involved in church music. And as part of my work here at Orleans United Church, I became aware of and found by the United Church of Canada, I guess you'd say, and became the music editor for the Gathering magazine there. So I became aware of people all across the country who were producing music, both within congregations and who were at home writing it and that sort of thing. So it gave me a broad background and the experience of being a United Church musician to understand what it is that we would be looking at and why we would want to be developing this music resource and why I'd want to be involved in it. Yeah.
Well, what's the scope and breadth of this project? Like, what type of music are we looking at, and how is it going to be presented?
All right, the music will be include almost everything from our current hymn books, Voices United, More Voices, and Nos Voix Unies, which is the French hymnal that the French Francophone congregations tend to use. And it'll include most of the music from there. So about 1,000 of those hymns will be put into digital format. And plus there will be about 200 new pieces that are being developed, and they've been searched for and worked on, and they will be added as well. So everything, the key thing is everything will be online. It's a digital platform, and that's available for congregations to subscribe to, and it'll give them all the rights to use the music in whatever way they need to, whether it's to print in a bulletin, to project on a screen, to stream as well. And the whole project will include the copyright to do all of that without the stress and worry about, well, do we have the rights to do this versus that, you know? It's much, it'll simplify things for congregations. So
now, this sounds like it's going to be quite a diverse program of music that you're creating here. And so it sounds like it's going to be inclusive of all of the diversity that we have in the United Church.
That was one of the things that the General Council Executive had in its direction, was to keep building the inclusive nature of the music that we have and how we sing and worship. And so part of this search that we've been doing is to find music that represents all kinds of ethnocultural groups that are represented in the United Church or that we want to encourage in the church. Also social justice related groups, particularly LGBTQ representation in our language and in the composers as well. So it's really trying to make sure that we're we are a justice-seeking organization,
right?
And so our music should reflect that.
That's really astounding to consider. That's a lot of music that will be made available, and I guess it's going to be a living document, if I can call it that.
It'll be a living document, yes. And the reason for that is that as new music becomes available, say in another 5 years we do another search for new music, Could be 10 years, but we don't know. But we'll be able to simply add it. We won't have to print a new book for it, and won't have to redesign everything. It'll just simply, you can keep building it. Yeah.
So the availability, at least, is for people that have access to the internet. Is that right?
Yes. In order to use it, somebody has to be able to contact and use the internet. For congregations that are small, that may not plan to stream, may not. They will not need the internet in order to use this on a Sunday morning, because the person that would have to have access to the internet would be the minister or the church musician. Those are the people who are developing worship,
right.
Or the lay worship leaders like you.
Yes, of course.
You know, because if you also are linked into
the
gatheringworship.ca,
yes,
sorry.
Yeah.
If you're linked into that, then they'll be able to find the music from the Gathering publication, which is digital now,
right.
and then find it then in appropriate music for your worship in Then Let Us Sing.
Yes, I noticed that there was a notice on that in the Gathering online that I would assume that we would be able to go through that and see it too.
Yeah, gatheringworship.ca and Then Let Us Sing are the two platforms that came out of this directive from the General Council. One is more of the worship development focus, and the other is the worship, the music side of it.
But there is going to be the opportunity for people who can't get to it to get a hard copy of it at some point.
Yes, we already have. If you already have Voices United, More Voices, and Nos Voix Unies in the pews, and you also would like a hard copy of the new stuff, there will be a small supplement of the new music put out as well. So you can have a hard copy if you want to. For some congregations, that would be really helpful. They may want it in their pews because it's just easier for you to pick up and read the music as they go. Others may want it for their choir because, it's a format they're used to reading in.
Right.
So, it's a lot of uses for that small book. But it'll be about the size of More Voices, actually.
Okay,
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's really interesting to hear that you are making accommodation, or there will be accommodation for everyone to have access.
Yeah, we've been trying to listen to people who ask questions and say, well, what about this? And we'll be able to do that. And I've had the question you just asked about the internet. My congregations don't have the internet in their sanctuaries. I mentioned, well, you don't have to. You need a projector. If you want to project, you need a projector and a screen and a laptop.
Right.
That's it. You don't need the internet.
Yeah. So this is very exciting. I'm looking really forward to this, and I'm just wondering, is there anything else you might want to add about this project that might be of interest to the people out there?
Well, one of the things that I found really interesting with the music resource, which is called Then Let Us Sing, is how we have a subcommittee called the Ethics, Justice, and Education Subcommittee. Yeah. And they set out the parameters that provided the foundation for the search committee who were looking for new music, the things that we needed to consider in terms of theology, musicality, and a whole range of things. But the thing that's really struck me is how seriously they're looking at it from the justice point of view. And there's two elements to that. One is the justice issues. How are we addressing justice issues and acknowledging them in our music? And does our music also reflect, are we being just in how we use it?
Oh, yes.
So that's one thing. And the other is part of the justice thing is the copyright and how we respect the people who write this music and make sure that they are being reimbursed for the music that we use, which is why we're working with onelicense.net because they will manage all of the royalties. And another layer of that is that the difficulty has always been when we sing music, say from Africa or Latin America, and we don't know the source. Nobody knows where that song originated because it's been sung traditionally for hundreds of years. And same thing with some of the African American spirituals that we sing. So this is looking. We have looked for ways in which we can take the royalties that will come from using this music and directing it back to those communities from which the music came from.
Wow.
And this is the first time I think anybody's done this.
Isn't that
Yeah,
amazing?
so it's a justice
Yeah.
thing. We feel that we have to honor where the music came from, and we have an agreement with an African group of churches and Christian churches, and also in Latin America. We have agreements with them that they will receive the money from the royalties to use towards their call and mission in their areas.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah, it's really neat.
yeah. Well, thank you very much for these valuable insights into this. I think there's a lot of people out there were wondering, well, what is this all about?
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be very helpful for people to get a handle on or get a sense of what's going on with this. And I really appreciate your time to come and talk with me about this.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
And I was wondering if I could bother you to maybe do a little bit of music before we leave.
Extra?
Sure.
Sure. And some stuff in more voices. There's lots of great things in there. And one of the pieces I really like playing is called God of the Bible, or subtitled Fresh as the Morning, which is a nice bright thing.
Well, thank you, folks, for tuning into this, and I hope that you had a great time listening to Paul and hearing about this project, Then Let Us Sing. If you have any questions, you'll see a panel that will come up at the end here where you can send a note and ask questions. I'll make sure if there's something related to Paul, I'll let him know and get back to you. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, Paul.
Thanks.